almost see it as like a stack of chips that you get, right? Like at poker. And it's like everything that you've done over the years, all of the connections that you made, the experiences that you've got, that's your integrity. That's your business savvy in the nous and stuff. You get to choose when you get to cash that in, because you're going to need it at various points in your life. For me, I'm like, I'll cash that in at certain points if I think it's worth it, if it's something I can put my name behind, but only if that matches my integrity and my values and stuff, because I'm not wasting my chips on something else if it's a gamble that I don't think is worthwhile.
I always start these podcasts saying the same thing, but it's become my intro. But yeah, this gentleman, for me, fundamentally, is definitely needed in the UK franchise industry. We've already had a handful of phone conversations, and I'd say calm, calculated, in a nice way, very informative, and just a really supportive guy. So I'm really grateful you come on the podcast. Could you please just introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about what you do?
Awesome. Morning, Ryan. So I'm Andrew Walters, or Andy, whatever you want to call me, doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I'm the founder of Kindling Franchise Consultants. So I was trying to work it out this morning. I think it's 17 years in the industry now.
Yeah, wow.
And a lot of that's been sort of spread out in different roles. I'm sure we'll go into some of that. But fundamentally what Kindling does, I mean, franchise consultancy is not a new beast in the industry, but what we basically do is business is broadly split into three chunks. We support franchises at whatever stage of their journey they're at. Typically, we work majority of the time with brand new franchisors. So it's franchises that have an aspire to grow into something but haven't done yet, but have a brand and a service or a product that they think has some mileage. We work with more mature franchisors that are sort of in the growth phase and don't really know how to hit that next sort of plateau and to sort of grow from there. And those guys, I would say, typically more of the SME type franchisors, and it's the guys that they've probably grown organically. They haven't had sort of a huge amount of strategic forethought into how they grow the franchise. It's just taken off and they've done really, really well with it. But it's about how do we take them from where they're at, from that, to really making sure that everything is properly best in class and they can grow from there. Yeah. And then my background is international. I've done 20 years of international business, 17 years of international franchising. So I do a fair bit. It's probably not the biggest chunk of the business, but a fair bit of bringing international franchisors to the UK and taking UK franchisors overseas. So that's broadly who we are.
Amazing, mate, that chunk of work just in there is just
it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, mate. Like the bit that was screaming. I mean, I think a lot of people think the international part is exciting. I get it is exciting, just because of the thought of being in other countries. But the bit that screams out to me the most, what I love, and I always dream about being a consultant as and when whatever happens in the future. My ideal scenario is give shares to the team, still be involved in the business and do a bit.
Come and work with me, right?
Yeah, I fucking will do, mate. But the bit that screams out to me and what I love is that SME part. Yeah. That bit of getting to someone
awesome.
Like a family-run business like mine.
Yeah.
It gets to a level it got to start going, whoa, I need some structure here, I need a bit more to it, and that's the bit that I fucking love.
It's amazing as well how many businesses have come to me because they know the international side that I've done. And they go, I've got this amazing opportunity. We're going to go to Dubai. We're going to go to Australia or Canada or whatever. And instinctively, always I'm like, that sounds awesome. Just for peace of mind, could we just take stock? Let me just look at your core business. And then almost always, you lift up the bonnet and I'm like, it's not quite as solid as I thought it would be. So we always end up going back to that and sort of fixing the core first. But I think the thing that excites me, what I love is no day is the same. Yeah. Every day is a different project with a different business, and the franchise world is so varied. So it's so many different types of owners, so many industries, so many sectors that every day you get to work with someone entirely new in a business entirely new. And sometimes it's stuff that I know and I've worked in. Other times I haven't got the faintest idea about it. But franchising is the thing that it hangs together upon. And so in terms of, sort of keeping your energy up and being excited about it, no day's the same. So pretty fun.
Yeah. What would you say is the most challenging franchise sector, or the most complicated one in terms of the business itself?
Oof. I would say they are so diverse and they all have their own challenges. And it's interesting because I would say some of the ones that are the most challenging and not the most challenging because they're the most complex. They're the most challenging because they're the most simple. Because they're the most simple, they're the most competitive. You get the most brands that think that they can do it. And therefore, it's very difficult to be distinctive because you're all peddling the same stuff. So your challenge in that is not one of, this is hard to police or hard to keep consistency. It's just hard to sell because there's 20 other brands that are trying to do the same thing. And how do you stand out? And there are ways to stand out, but you've got to be smart about it. And then you get the other flip side of it where you get ones which are hyper complex to franchise because the service itself is franchise. So I always talk about trying to find this sweet spot in franchising. Like if it's too easily replicable, then people will just resent paying you any money for it. They're going to do it on their own, or there's a load of competitors. If it's too complex, you get the other side where actually your quality is going to be no good because everybody will be trying to do it at the standard that you set up in the first place and not able to achieve it because it's too difficult.
You mate, it's so right that it's like my sector, my business is a recruitment business.
Yeah.
A lot of people have recruitment businesses that you can easily set up on your own.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why bother?
Yeah.
And it's finding that differentiating factor of why bother. I know what my bother is. I know why people should buy a Tezlom franchise. But yeah, it's an interesting one that I've never thought about. Some of the ones that are even more simpler and how they differentiate. And then obviously the really complex ones, it must be a nightmare.
Yeah.
I always think like, how does someone sell a £300,000 franchise? Like, fucking, how do you get there? And how does that person have that money? And how do you decide?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think it all comes down to where's the value for the candidate and what's expensive to them.
Yeah.
You know, I do a lot in the education space and the kids space, and rightly or wrongly, the franchise fees have been pushed right down to the absolute bare bones there. And some franchisors are charging £6,000-7,000 for the upfront fee, and it's not a great deal more than that in terms of costs to set up because it's simple. But to a lot of their candidates, they're looking at that and going, that's a shit ton of money for me. I can't afford to pay 6 or 7 grand. So for those candidates, it's a lot of money. Whereas if it's a £300,000 franchise, if you've got a candidate who's going, it's all right, we run multiple businesses, we're going to run this alongside a load of others. It's not pocket change, but you know, to us, it's not significant. It's all relevant, relative, I suppose, as to how much value are you selling it as a franchise. That's the end story, isn't it? Is if I put 300 into it,
I want this out of it.
Yeah, what am I going to get out of it personally, professionally, emotionally,
you're gonna want
financially?
I guess you're going to want that money back in 2 years' time, aren't you? And then you're
massively
going to want 300 grand back profit easy.
Yeah,
it's interesting, isn't it, mate? It's
but that's the beauty of franchising, is that it's at its essence, it's the simplest of things.
Yeah.
If you take out what actually is franchising, the bit that matters, the bit that makes a franchise is really small. It's just the use of the brand and the IP. You can overlay that in a million different ways, and that's what makes franchising really cool. You know, we took on 6 new clients this month, all sorts of different businesses, and there's very few things that tie them all together in terms of what their businesses are, except for the franchise model will work in all of them, but you've got to apply it in lots of different ways. And I said something to someone a little while ago, and it felt a bit controversial as I said it, but I'm going to say it again anyway, because why not, right? I think franchising is lazy as an industry. And I'm not accusing anybody of being lazy, and I'm not saying that there are franchisors that are lazy. I just think as a business model, it's got set in its ways. And there are, you know, when you're franchising, this is how you franchise business, and you just do it like that because you have to. And I look at it completely different and go, keep the main bit, which is it is allowing other businesses to use your brand and your IP and mess around with the rest of it in any way that you want. That's how you stand out. That's how you make it unique. Yeah. And those sort of things are really cool to me. You know, we work with some really cool businesses that on the face of it, it doesn't look like a franchise that could be commercially viable at all. You know, there's a business that we're working at the moment, which is a depression treatment. And the only people that would be able to use it are clinical psychiatrists. And on the face of it, it's like, well, it doesn't sound like a franchise. But actually, it's beautiful as a franchise because it's a program and a model that works really, really well and has been tested and piloted with a good brand behind it. It's just a franchise that they're selling into psychiatry clinics. So it's never going to be at the franchise show. It's never something that you're going to see in the wider world, because why would you? But actually, as a business model for them to be able to put something of quality that's replicable, and for those brands to take something that's complex that will allow them to do it more easily, make money and give good service to the patients, franchising works beautifully for that.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Yeah. Wow, that sounds like an amazing franchise just to even know about, you know?
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it? I'll tell you a bit more about it later.
Yeah, that's a real clean one, that, isn't it? So what always interests me, I mean, I've got about a zillion questions now running around my head, but the one thing is always the same question to every single person that come on. Is like, how do you end up getting into space? It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think there's qualifications now, isn't there? Remember Emily was talking, she's working with a university, isn't she? I think there's some sort of qualification you can do in it now at a degree level or something, but did you do it, in fact?
I did,
yeah, you did do it, didn't you? What is the qualification?
I don't know if they still do it. It was Lancaster, so not a million miles away from here. So Lancaster has a really good business school at the university. And I did a BBA, which is a Bachelor of Business Administration, and for a year I specialised in franchising.
Amazing.
And at the time, it was Lancaster, and I want to say it might have been Warwick or Sheffield. It was 2 universities in the UK were the only ones that provided it. And I think it might now just be Lancaster, and I'm not even 100% sure that
who's the people that run it? Because it must be someone from the franchise industry, surely.
It was. They had specific professors. I forget who it was. But yes, they did have some background in franchising. Yeah. But we had a load of guest lecturers every week from right the way across the sector.
Did you?
It was super interesting.
I'd love to do that.
And it was done with absolutely no intention at the time. It was just part of my course. I wasn't thinking about franchising.
Did you not know anything about franchising at the time?
Simply from what I'd read, as a business model. It was a module I needed to take as part of the degree. But what was really interesting was how much of what I was told resonated when I started working. Like, I remember vividly, there was a discussion about franchisee conflict. And I say it to people all the time, with new franchisors, I'm like, expect it. Yeah. It's baked into the model. Well, it's how you handle it. It's, can you operate at a level of normal communication where there's a general acceptance and respect for one another, knowing that there are going to be times when that varies, and there are going to be times when you're an absolute rock star and they love you because you've launched a new thing that's made them an extra 20%. And there are other times when you launch a new website and your website crashes and everyone hates you.
Yeah.
It's part of what it is when you're running a business where you're taking a bunch of small business owners and putting constraints on them and telling them that they have to do it in the way that you want them to do it. At some point, there's going to be conflict. So it's interesting hearing that and hearing someone speak about it. And we got both sides in the lectures. And then, actually going and sort of joining my first franchise and being like, oh, okay, that's actually true.
Amazing, that, isn't it?
But it's a sad shame. And I think going back to, this isn't a laziness issue for franchising, but this is something that we have to do better in this country, is promote franchising more as a career path for people.
Yeah.
It's almost like, people think about, you're going to join the workforce when you finish school. Maybe you'll set up a business, but you probably won't. But nobody's talking to kids at college or university level about setting up a franchise. Why the hell not? It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Such a missed opportunity. And, I lived and worked in North America for 3 years in franchising. It's a different beast over there. Like,
is it?
It's just seen differently. Being a franchisee over there is seen differently to being a franchisee here. Like, there are franchisees in the US, a lot of franchisees that would dwarf every single franchisor over here in terms of scale and size. They gobble them up. They got an office of 400 or 500 people because they run 60, 70 different franchise sites of multiple different brands.
Fucking hell.
And they've got a head office that supports it and stuff. It's just different, where we don't have that sort of same multi-brand ownership in the UK. There's a little bit in food and beverage, but nothing like in North America. It's just not seen in the same way. And it's a shame.
How do we get to that level?
I wish we could do more to educate. I wish I could say that I've got faith that the government will, we can blow the trumpet enough and someone will say, like, this is the way to do it. Honestly, I've thought about doing this, and it's time and energy and contacts. And truthfully, I want to speak to Lancaster University about it. I'd love to build a career path with a uni or a college where we could say, like, right, we've got a selected 20 best-in-class franchisors. Each of these are signed up to a scheme for your graduates, one in each discipline, so that for each of your graduates that are coming out, there's something that might appeal to them based on their passions and their experience, and have a work hand in glove with the university to give them a career pathway. It's literally like, you're going to get a university education, and we're going to come in and we're going to do franchise training, and the fees are going to be lower because they're graduates, but we're going to be attracting, not people that are at a certain point in their career and looking for a change, but hungry, smart, driven people at the early stages of their career. And it's literally this conveyor belt of every year we take in our new
that'd
incoming
be amazing.
graduate scheme. And it's exactly that. It's a graduate scheme, but instead of it being a graduate scheme where you go and work for an employer, it's a graduate scheme where you come in and you're given your franchise. You've got to pay for it, but you get all of the mentoring and all that beautiful stuff that comes with it, and a business out the other side of it. So it isn't going to happen unless we sort of grab it and run with it. I don't know. Is that something that universities would want to do? I'd like to think so.
But we should definitely talk to Lancaster University. That'd be, mate, you should.
Well, Theo was a graduate at the same scheme as me as well. So he and I have spoken to it on this a few times. As always, it seems a brilliant idea over a few beers, and then real life kicks in. You know, you end up focusing back on the other stuff. But yeah, let's have a talk about it, because I mean, we were talking already earlier about franchise recruitment and how do you find it, and it is trying to be creative about how you find this as a career path rather than waiting.
Trying to make franchising sexy, innit? It's hard.
Yeah,
it's just
but why?
Yeah,
and that's there's a lot of preconceptions around franchising, right? And what it actually is not what a lot of people think it is, I think. And is there still seen as a bit of a dirty word by some people?
I don't know.
Possibly.
I just think people just don't know about it. I just don't think it's known about enough.
They do, and in their mind, all it is that's like a McDonald's, isn't it?
Yeah, that's all they say, McDonald's, and they don't actually know what it means when they say it as well. You speak to them about it, and they get into the nits, they haven't got a clue.
So if you said to them, like, it is a bit like a McDonald's, but you haven't got to run a McDonald's and you haven't got to have $250,000 to buy into it. There will be a franchise that absolutely appeals to you career-wise, and there'll be a franchise that absolutely appeals to what you love doing and your passion. But they just don't know about it. And that's what's frustrating.
Yeah.
So yes, long-winded answer to your question. That's kind of how I got into franchising.
Yeah, you just got me thinking about advertising franchising now. So how did you get into it? You went to uni and that's how it happened.
I suppose that's one answer to it. Is it the honest answer? Probably not.
Yeah.
The honest truth is it was chance. I was working in London in a job that I really didn't like at sort of 21.
Did you live in London, did you?
Yeah, lived in there for 3-4 years out of uni. Just doing stuff that I didn't like doing. I was working for PRS, so it was a music business in Soho. Super cool, living with my mates. Like,
what music? Are you that way inclined? Do you like music?
Oh, I love music. Yeah.
And
so it was music licensing. So it's the least sexy part of
PRS. I've seen that. Yeah, no, it's an orange logo, isn't it?
Yeah, everybody has to have one. So if you play music anywhere, you have to have a PRS license. So effectively, what it does, it protects the rights of songwriters. So if any music gets played anywhere, they make sure that the person gets paid for it. Yeah. But we were working in London. We had a cool underground bar and restaurant in the office, and we had people coming in and doing gigs there every week. So there was a stage, but I was pretty unfulfilled because I didn't enjoy the work, didn't really know what I was going to do.
Are you creative by nature, do you think?
Yes, but not in the traditional sense of never learnt music. Like, I'm pretty good at everything without being amazing at those sort of things. So never felt like a calling in those things, and I didn't go to at school. I didn't have an experience where it was like that was it was all extracurricular stuff all the time, and therefore of course I was going to learn this and I was going to learn that and stuff. So I didn't get it at that age, and that is a bit of a regret for me because I kind of wish I had. But I think the creativity comes out in other ways, and my creativity comes out of I can see something. I can see a business on paper, a brand, a vision, books, whatever it is, the financials, and I can see the story. Like, I can just read it all out in front of me. Just totally build it out in my head. Like, I know what it is.
Yeah, I do that when I meet people as well. I think my super skill set is I meet two people and I think, oh my God, these two people need to meet. Do you know what I mean? I need to make that happen.
Yeah.
That's my favourite thing. I always like.
Yeah.
You just it's daydreaming in it in your head straight away.
It's totally that. Yeah. I just see it. Like it all lays itself out in front of me, and I'm like, I can see where your challenges are. I can see where the opportunity is, and I'm like, and there's a missing bit that you haven't seen, and it's just that, and that's what you got to do. Yeah.
So go on. I want to dig a little bit more because it's interesting that, like, how someone works at PSR in it.
PRS.
Yeah, PRS. It's just, I've seen it. that isn't a job you apply for, is it? So
It literally was. I did. So obviously did my business degree at Lancaster. Came out of that and wanted to move down to London. And I'd done a year out working for
where were you brought up, mate? Where did you live?
Leicestershire.
And mum and dad all right? How did you have mum and dad and all that sort of stuff? So
Good. Still there.
They're still there.
They're still there. Yeah, I had a love-hate relationship with where I lived. Like I would say early years living where I still love going up there. Like that village and stuff, it still feels very much like home, and my parents are still in the home where, I grew up. And I had a wonderful time at school at the little age. And then, there's a bigger town which is pretty rough, if I'm honest, nearby. Yeah. And once we sort of, you moved out of the nice sort of village junior school and went to high school and stuff, my experience of what school was and what, what it was like in that area and sort of feeling like a fit in, entirely different. Like I hated it, to be honest, those last few years. So for me, university was this shining light at the end of it of, there's something else.
Wait, did you think you were? It's always interesting me about the university thing, because I didn't go to university, but I hated school passionately. I think the education system's much better now, and I think I wish I went to school now, because I've got dyslexia, and it wasn't just that, I was just really bored.
Yeah.
And I think when my little boys go to school now, I hear them now, their lessons plans is much better now.
Yeah.
So I resent school in that respect, but then I don't, because I love what I do myself now, and I think I probably always end up doing this anyway.
Yeah.
But why did you hate school? Why did you not like school? Just because it was a bit, what was it, the brashness of the city, or?
I always found school easy, if I'm being completely honest. I always found school easy. Academically, it was easy for me.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. Like there was the schooling
maths,
part.
English, all the sort of...
I never liked maths, and I wasn't particularly good at maths. But relatively speaking, it wasn't awful.
Yeah.
It certainly wasn't where my head was at. And I think like in this sort of small, friendly school, I was basically like, the little kid at school that's quite academic. And in the village where I grew up, that was absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But then this school was just very different, big school. Yeah. And, quite a tough area.
Yeah.
I was just an easy target, basically.
Yeah.
And I speak to my mum and dad. They'll probably listen to this podcast and they hate me talking about it, because they'll say like, we had no idea you had that experience at school and stuff. I had no idea.
Yeah, you had no idea.
It's the same. It was just school.
Yeah.
I honestly thought that everybody had the same experience at school.
Yeah,
School was just tough. And that was only when I got to university and everyone's going like, oh, I went to this school and we got to do this and we got to do that and I had that. And I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah, it's not
maybe
that.
My school wasn't a great school and maybe I didn't have a great experience there. Because I had a wonderful upbringing, like unbelievable parents and great friends and stuff. It's just at that point I was like, wow, this is rough here.
Yeah.
And I just wanted out. I just felt like
I was the same.
Didn't fit in with the crowd that was there. And then I suddenly went to university, and that was the major thing for me. It was suddenly walked into a place where I was like, wow, there's just a load of people that think like me.
So when you were going for your GCSEs and you went, I guess you did your sixth form, or you went to get to uni, did you have an idea what you wanted to do then? Did you have jobs in between and stuff? Was there something that got you there? Or
no,
what did your mum and dad do for jobs? Like, how did that happen?
So,
it's always, I'm prying, but it's just
no, it's not.
It's just trying to figure out how.
The honest truth was, it was a lack of knowing where I wanted to go that led to where I wanted to go. So I did a business degree simply because I hadn't got a bloody clue what I wanted to do. And it seemed like the safest opportunity to go, well, if I do that, I'm not closing any doors and maybe it will help me.
Yeah.
Did I get a massive amount out of the course? Various elements, yes. There were some really practical parts of it which were really useful. Like I did a year of accounting and learning how to read accounts and learning what to do with that sort of stuff. It's really practically useful to know how to grow a business, to be able to understand the story behind the numbers. Yeah. There were other courses that I did where I'm like, what an absolute load of bollocks.
Yeah,
like it was pointless. Yeah. But I remember when I got there, there was a professor, his name was Bogdan, big Romanian chap. And sat down in the first lecture with them, and he basically said, my whole ethos behind my unit that we're going to take is that I am a counterpoint to everything else that everybody's going to tell you in all of this stuff. So you're going to hear so many management buzzwords and all of this stuff. And he's like, it's all a load of rubbish. And that was his view, was a totally opposing view to everything else that you're being taught. And I was like, how cool is that you're going to a university that will give you absolutely competing views on something? So the first thing he gave us a bullshit bingo sheet. And he said, I want you, this has got all the buzzwords that you're going to hear. And he says, I dare you to go into your next lectures, and when you hear these words, dot lines like you're playing bingo. And if you get a line, like in bingo, you have to stand up and shout bullshit. And I was like, that's awesome. Like, I loved it that there was that sort of
controversy. Yeah.
So there were elements that were really practical that I thought were really useful. Others that weren't. But it changed me as a person, I guess.
Being away from home and...
Yeah, and being around people that actually, you know, I felt like I fit in. You know.
Lancaster's a nice place as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I used to work at Honda in Morecambe. At the Honda,
yeah.
I did a bit of going around Lancaster like with customers and stuff. So.
Yeah, it's just nice from... You know, it wasn't too big. You know, grew up in a small village in Leicestershire, so it wasn't too big a step up, but it was a step up. You know, and so it helped me start to figure out who it was that I wanted to be in. Like, you know, I didn't come out of it any the wiser in terms of what I wanted to do with my life, but I probably came out of it a better rounded person.
Yeah. So in that time, did you have jobs at the uni and stuff like that? Or did you?
Yeah, I worked all the way through. I mean, that's something my mum and dad really sort of instilled to me was, you know, you learn the value of money by working. So summer holidays and everything, I always had a job at school. I always came back and worked over summer holidays and stuff. So I did all sorts of stuff. Did some really bad jobs. Did a lot of contract stuff of, you know, working for an agency that would call you in the morning. It was like, stick your steel toe cap boots on, you're going to this warehouse today. Yeah. I remember the worst one I did it for one day. It was just a one-day job. But I did it for one day, was shifting Christmas trees from one end of a warehouse to the other end of a warehouse. It was a massive warehouse in the middle of August, like plastic Christmas trees. And it was just the biggest mountain of trees you've ever seen. It was just sticking it on one shoulder, slogging it in 35-degree heat to the other side, walk back, pick up the other one stuff. But I worked at a butcher's that was probably the job I had longest, butchers and fishmongers, and so, which was cool. Yeah, it's a good practical skill. It's quite nice to be able to show people how to do some cool stuff with meat and fish. But we made a career out of it. But it helped sort of, you know, figure out how to work and how to sort of be around people.
That work ethic's hard, isn't it? It's trying to get that work ethic. So we went to uni, we did the franchising at uni, and then where was that sort of point of time where you went, okay, I've got a career now, I've got a job? What was that? Was there a first job at that point or not? Because sometimes people leave uni and they just get a regular job, don't they?
So I worked at PRS, and so it was international business analyst. So we were basically looking after British songwriters around the world. Wow. And I was travelling around the world doing stuff like that. And it was quite cool. But
Can you speak other language, Andy, or not?
Yeah, I speak French.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. My wife's French-Canadian. So,
is she really?
Yeah.
Did you learn it because of her, or?
Yes, is the honest truth. I thought...
It's because she just swore at you in French all
the time. I thought I spoke some French because I did it at GCSE. And then I met Janie and I was like, okay, I don't really speak French. And then I moved to Montreal, which is French speaking. So we lived in a French neighbourhood.
Well, mate, how? So you've done quite a lot of travelling.
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Loads of stories all around this.
Yeah. And where did you meet the missus and when?
All right, guys, this is a long one. So this actually ties into how to get to franchising. Okay. So we're going to go right back.
Yeah.
So I'll answer that question by answering the first question.
Yeah.
So I'm in London. And I'm doing a job which is basically, it's international stuff, but it's around numbers. It was all about producing financial reports for people and stuff. And I'd done that in my year out when I was working at Compaq and then HP. And I was good at it, but I really didn't like it. I wanted to work with people and I wanted to do like strategic stuff.
Yeah.
And I was worried because I'm like, I've done it now I did it a year out and then I was 2 or 3 years into it. And I'm like, I'm going to get pigeonholed here. I'm going to get a CV that this is all I know how to do. Yeah. I'm going to end up without meaning to having a career that I've got no desire to do. So I basically was sort of ticking along desperate for something to change. And a couple of shitty things happened and opportunity sort of came up to take stock of life and sort of...
What's the shitty things, mate?
So I lost my best friend at 24. So he was... he lived in the States at the time and we were basically like brothers growing up. And he had congenital heart disease. So he died on the treadmill at the gym. at 24, which brutal, and it floored me, to be honest. And but it was.
Was your best mate growing up, and then he lived in the States?
So he was an American kid, yeah. So he came over to school when he was probably about, I don't know, 10, something like that. And then we were absolutely inseparable until he went back to the States at like 17, 18, something like that.
Okay,
so that was a big loss for me, for him to go over there, because he literally was, we were two peas in a pod.
And that's a real pivotal age as well, isn't it?
Yeah, massively so. And then, so I remember getting the call, and I was going through a bit of a rough time anyway. I was in a relationship that I shouldn't have been in. It wasn't working. She was not good for me. It was quite toxic. And I wasn't happy with work. And then that happened. Yeah. And it just felt like, this is shit. This is really shit. I'm just fed up.
Yeah. Makes you question everything, grief.
It really does. And I would say what was a really tough time, and, I don't want this as a sob story, because
it's not a sob story. It's always interesting to hear.
Yeah, but I used it in the best way possible, and it has helped change my life in the best possible way, because I looked at it and I was like, enough, no more. Literally on the day, we're done. Relationship ended.
You finished it with her? Straight
away. I went out to States for his funeral, came back, and I'm like, not doing this job anymore either. I'm done with this. Done with this. And
it gives you that life is short. I literally did a post about it on Instagram, so like, life is short.
And I made a conscious decision then that I have lived by every single day, which is follow your heart. And I literally looked at it and I was like, that's what I'm going to do. If I have an opportunity and it feels like an opportunity, I'm going for it, no matter what. So not long after I went to Peru with a friend of mine that I was living with, really good mate. And we had 3 weeks in Peru just doing what?
Did you ayahuasca?
No. That's another discussion. But yeah, so it was, we were just doing what you do in your 20s and stuff, and traveling around and stuff. And I saw this girl in a town that we're staying at, and no word of lie, I literally turned to my mate and I said, I've just seen the most beautiful woman in the world. Thought nothing more than that, fleeting glance. So came back to the guest house that we're staying at, and she happened to be staying in the room next door.
Oh, fucking hell.
So, I sort of struck up the courage eventually and got talking to her. And, it went really well. We spent just a couple of days hanging out. And then, that was it. I went back to London. She went back to Montreal, where she's from. But we stayed in touch. And then I went out to visit her. She came back to visit me, so on and so forth. And then eventually I'm like, all right, maybe there's something in this. And I was like, stick to your mantra. Like, if it feels like it's worth it, go for it. So she and I met up in Caracas in Venezuela, and we traveled the length of the Andes together down from Venezuela down to Argentina over about 10 weeks. So we did that, flew back to London again.
How did you get the money to do that though? You just
I literally, after I met her, I put £500 away every single month from my job. I had like a little kitty that I was building it up. 500 was what I wanted to achieve every single month. Felt massive for me.
Yeah, it would have been massive as well.
Yeah, I'm like, Jesus Christ, this hurts. But
worth for a bird though, isn't it, sometimes?
Yeah, exactly. And then, so then came back to London after the travels, and I was like, that's it, done, following my heart. So one week later, I moved out to Montreal. No job, nowhere to live, no nothing.
Quit. What was your mate's name who died?
Ben.
Ben.
Yeah, he was a good guy.
Yeah.
And so moved out to Montreal, and then I'm getting back to the question that actually asked was how to get into franchising. So I'm in Montreal. What
was it? Sorry, when I get quite a thing. What does your missus do? What did your missus do when you met her?
She was a student.
Was she a student?
Yeah, she was a student. Yeah, so I was 24, she was 21.
Right.
So she was there on holiday as well, and then but we just there was a connection. It really worked. So
did you just knock on the wall? Did you? How did you?
She was sat outside on a hammock reading a book. So
what was your opening line?
I can't remember. It wouldn't have been very good. There's a few other stories that I'll tell you that probably not for podcasting. But so sort of moved there, and then in a new city, like new language and stuff.
Where did you move to? You moved to Montreal.
To Montreal a week after
you
I got
went
back.
over to go and see her, and then you went travelling and moved.
Went travelling a week later, moved to Montreal.
Amazing.
Jacked it all in with a bag, so went out there. Initially with a 1-year visa to see what I could do, and then I got there and I was like, don't know anyone other than her, but I oh, well, throw yourself into it. So I was like, desperate to try and find a job.
What did she do at that stage?
She was still studying.
Was she?
Yeah. So we didn't have a lot of money. You know, we lived in the middle of town. At the time, Montreal was really cheap to live, so it felt really cheap compared to London. But eventually, I was sort of looking for jobs, and what I hadn't really realised is that if you want a decent job in Montreal, most people speak English and French. And at that time, my French was
Shocking.
mediocre at best. And I just, you know, I wasn't as employable there as it was in the UK. And then job came up at a business called Mad Science, who were looking for an account manager, and they happened to be based in Montreal, in an English-speaking neighbourhood in Montreal. And actually what they wanted was an account manager that would work with the US and the UK. So I'm thinking...
Fucking hell, mate. That's like...
Oh, so fortuitous.
Man.
So I literally was looking at it going like, this is the one. I've got to make this stick. Because if I don't get a job soon, I've got to go back.
Yeah.
And so I literally was like, went on for the job interview and I'm thinking, all right, I've done some international stuff. Obviously speak the lingo. And I studied franchising. So I've got some things I can pull from.
It's an amazing franchise as well.
Yeah. So I got really lucky there. And I'm still really good friends with them. You know, I was in Montreal this summer. And, you know, I have dinner with them every time that I'm there, still working with them as a client. So, which in itself is really cool. Like that's sort of 18 years ago. And now I'm helping them grow their business. So, yeah.
Fucking
cool.
hell, that's sick, that, isn't it, mate?
Yeah. So there you go. That's the answer to the question. That's how I got into franchising. So there was an element that, you know, the university bit helped, but it was a series of events, and then it was just fortuitous that
What's that saying again? What's the saying? You say, always follow your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's like, if you're ever going to have you got any tattoos?
No.
You should get a tattoo, like, call it Ben's Way. And always follow your heart. It's quite a cool thing. My brother one, I've got a tattoo on my hand. It says "Embrace the madness within for a life without limits," and that's what I call Tom's way. Nice. Because it's just always trying to find. It's always like trying to find the silver lining out of something that's really bad, mate. That's the fucking sickest silver line you've ever heard, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You know, and it is. You know, is it a good thing that it happened? 100% not.
Yeah. But
all you can do is
make something
from it.
Yeah.
And you know, and that I suppose that's a brilliant legacy of it, and that's best tribute that I could do to him was taking what was pretty tragic, you know, pretty tragic, truly tragic, and turn it into something that shaped my life, and you know, and I'm incredibly fortunate for.
Well, it's like a core belief now, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
exactly
like,
that. Yeah.
Fucking it meant that, mate.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
Yeah. So how long did you? So you stayed in Montreal, worked at Mad Science. What, were you flogging franchises for them or something?
I was on the franchise support side there.
Yeah.
So I was there for 3 years. Basically doing sort of account management stuff, which was a really good grounding in it in lots of different countries.
Yeah.
Which was a lot of fun, great business to work with. And you know, I travelled around the world with those guys.
Amazing.
Did franchise launches in all sorts of places, and
you just went straight in balls deep, didn't you? That's like going international franchising straight into the bat, just travelling around the world. Like.
Yeah, but like what a brilliant grounding for it.
Yeah, amazing company, amazing branding. Yeah, and then just going straight at that. And then so you did you say 3.5 years in Montreal?
Yep.
And then you said I'm going to go back to London.
Actually, it kind of came about of it was what do we want to do? Like what's by that point I guess I'm sort of mid to late 20s, 27 probably, and it was. Is this it now? You know, are we sticking around here?
Yeah.
Or what do we want to do? And it was actually Janie, my wife, who was like, actually, I'd like the experience of living overseas, and maybe we could consider living in the UK. So we jacked everything in again, and we went travelling around the world together for, I think we did about 4 months, all over the place. Did some amazing things and stuff.
Were you still working or just
no? So again, we put together a war chest and money. And then like, all right, let's go and blow it all, travelling around the world. And then we moved back to the UK and same thing again. It was like, right.
Oh, mate, you make me sick, you two. You're so fucking nice. Like, it's so nice, that, isn't it, mate? That is so cool, that.
So then we started from scratch all over again in the UK. And then now I'm like, God, I don't know if I could do it again. Like moving to a new country, neither of us have jobs, no house or anything. But it was that mantra of like, follow your heart. Like, what do we want to do? I don't know about you. I'd love to travel the world. Yeah, me too.
So where did you go? Can you remember? Or you went everywhere, did you?
We sort of centred it around Asia. So we flew out to Samoa first, a couple of weeks on the beach in Samoa. Brother was living in Australia, so I spent a bit of time with him in Australia. And then travelled in and around sort of Indonesia, saw some really cool stuff in Indonesia, and then India.
Where did you get the appetite for travel from? What did your mum and dad do? Why was that appetite there?
Honest truth, I don't know. Like we went on holidays as kids, but typical, bucket and spade holidays in Spain and stuff. And my mum and dad are pretty well travelled now, but they didn't have that as upbringings either.
Did your brother do it before you, or your sister, or what?
Yeah, my brother went away first. I had an older brother, two brothers, older and a younger. My older brother went away first. Can I say that was inspiration? Probably not.
Just because sometimes it just not.
I don't know. There's just always been that calling for me. I honestly think it's something that's massively important to us for our kids is to get them to travel and to take them with us and go and see stuff, because I think it's an unbelievable education. Yeah. You learn so much about people and dealing with circumstances and cultures.
I think do you think that's why you're quite you're not calculated, you're quite conserved, aren't you? When you talk, you always think about what's coming out your mouth. Do you think that came from that?
Possibly, yeah. And I think it just got under my skin. It just sort of it became part of my identity, and then like the jobs that I was doing allowed that. I don't know.
Learning about different cultures and stuff.
Exactly. I don't know how many countries I've been to. It's somewhere between 50 and 60, I would say. And then, I got the opportunity to start travelling with work and stuff and doing all of that, which was brilliant.
So when you landed in the UK, where did you work first?
Pitman.
Did you?
Yeah. Yeah. So I joined
another global one, massive, isn't it?
So I joined Pitman as an account manager again. And I did that probably a year or so, maybe a little bit longer. And then I was promoted to the board there. And
fucking hell, that's a bit going, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fucking hell, that's wicked, that, mate.
Yeah, it was good. And effectively, I sort of...
Mate, how do you do something like that? Because you must have known some shit. How did you learn them skills? Are you just natural to you think, or...?
Yeah, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
And I think it was...
You're a natural leader, aren't you? You've definitely got that around you. I'd follow you.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. And I think it was... Honestly, it was being consistently good at what I do and knowing what I talk about and being able to drive and get results. And I think, there's... Like I said, I'm quite sort of calm and quietly spoken, I guess, in some ways. But there's a confidence and a bit of a steel to it as well.
If you're talking, like I always consently listen to what you say. Like I think I've not heard you talk publicly. Do you do much public speaking?
Yeah, from time.
Yeah, I can imagine the pin drop would be in the room. I think.
Yeah. So I think it just came from knowing my value, and that was the other flip side of losing Ben as a friend. Was the other thing that I got was a massive confidence in who I am. I didn't really have that as a kid. I was always sort of unsure of what my place was in the world. And then all of a sudden I was like, I know who I am. And you know what? I really like who I am. Yeah. Like I've got values. I believe that I treat people the right way. So I'm confident. Yeah. And I know that I'm good at what I do. And it just came from that sort of chomping at the bit always with like, I should be doing more than this because I can do more for this company and there's opportunities if you just let me do it. And it basically came about of I got a really good job offer from somewhere else and, it said Pitman, I'm like, can't turn it down. Yeah. And then they said, okay, well, how about if we give you a board position? And I'm like, okay, then I'll take that instead. So
that's a big jump though, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a big jump.
Yeah, but it was.
But I was ready for it.
Yeah, I think you were.
And then it was, so I was sort of overseeing franchise recruitment there. And we had some great years. We did really, really well. And I was also doing the product development side. So I didn't have a background in sort of, creating educational content and stuff, but I think I could put a commercial spin on what was otherwise a team that was very much an R&D sort of education-based team that didn't really think in those ways. Yeah. So, it was how can we take what we're doing there and be looking at the business side of things. And I was thinking about it the other day, like what was my best achievement? I think one of the things we did was, I remember going and looking at the numbers and going, like, this is crazy. Like, we're paying so much money in licensing to Microsoft for using their products because we were teaching people how to use Microsoft stuff. So I made it like a crusade to get educational licensing from Microsoft and basically just kept bugging them until like they put me in touch with the right person. And eventually I kind of got through and I was like, right, we are an education business. Like we should be treated the same as university or a school or whatever. And they put us on a different platform. And then it literally was like costs went from there to straight there. And then all of a sudden, no difference in service of what we were offering to anybody. The only person that was making less money was Microsoft, but small beans to them, but it was massive for us. So we had some good years sort of off the back of that. And then I started doing some international stuff with Pitman because there was a massive opportunity around, a real heritage British brand. And we did some really good things internationally with Pitman. 100% made some mistakes. We did some stuff that was, it was cool and it was fun. Didn't have massive lasting legacy. But it was great, great learning curve for me. And
what is there anything you can pinpoint from international, that sort of stuff, that you'd suggest that would be advice for someone else doing international recruitment not to do, or is there anything you can?
Yeah, and
that obviously it's hard, isn't it, not to talk about too deep.
Well, that really steered the next step of my path. So we took Pitman into a bunch of countries, and we had some good mileage in some of them. And then Stagecoach came knocking and asked if I was interested in a job, and initially I said no, and then they came back about 9-12 months later and said, international was a bit of a mess, will you come and sort it out for us?
Yeah.
So will you come on as global director? And I'm like, okay, it's kind of the bit that I was enjoying most. I'm like, okay, so I'll do that. And I did take some learnings there, and I think I've worked with a few other businesses on their international side, and I think the key thing for me was, it used to drive me nuts, Ryan, right? When I go into the meetings at Stagecoach, and it'd be like, right, this is the new system we've got. We're rolling it out. It's amazing. It's all singing, all dancing and stuff. And I go like, okay, cool. Does this work for our Canadian franchisees and our German franchisees and our Australian franchisee? And they were like, no, not at this stage. It doesn't, no. And I'm like, brilliant. So that's something we're going to roll out, and I'm going to get it in the neck from them going, that's another thing that you missed out. New website, all singing, all dancing. New marketing deck, all singing, all dancing. And I'm like, cool. Have we got a German version of this or a Canadian version? No, we haven't. Okay. So what do you want me to do here? I'm like, we've got a bunch of franchisees that are feeling deeply unloved because they're a second thought for everything. So I literally, this is the tattoo I should have had, Ryan, was, have you thought about international? On my forehead. Because I swear to God, we go in every meeting and we'd sit around as a board or whatever, and they'd be talking about all the new things we're working out. And I'd literally go, what I'm going to say? I don't even have to say it. And again, I haven't really thought. I'm like, okay, well, maybe we should. So the cultural shift that I really wanted to put in place, and which we definitely landed, was to stop thinking as a British franchisor that has an international department, and start thinking as a global franchisor. It just happens that we operate in multiple markets. And it sounds semantics, like I'm playing with words, but actually it was a fundamental shift in how that business thought, because it was taking every facet of it, marketing, sales, franchise recruitment, the education team, all of the support, and going, each of you now has a part to play in this as a business. You are all involved in the franchising. It isn't me and my team. We're all doing it. So we broke it down and went, right, each of these markets is now a core operation. And everything that we do in the UK, we do for Canada. Everything we do in Canada, we do for Germany, so on and so forth. And it changed massively. We did a conference over there. We did events over there. We had a proper website. There was a marketing deck that was released at the same time. All the tech always worked in multiple languages, multiple currencies and stuff. Just that shift of getting everyone to go, oh, you know what? When we're building this, why don't we build the functionality in? Because it's easy to do it now. It's hard to retrofit it. So then the franchisees started going, all right, they do care. They do believe in us. And then lo and behold, you get franchisees that start growing. And then we're growing really significantly and buying new territories. And then we could sell new franchises because happy days, everybody's profitable. So that would be the fundamental shift, I would say, is be honest as to why you want to do it. And I would say this in two ways. If you're really serious about doing it and being a proper international business, then do it strategically like that. Think it through and understand you're going to have to do it properly, and you need a war chest and you need the resources. Or if you want to do it because it's a bit fun and it's a laugh to go out to some of these places, that's fine too, in my opinion, if you're completely honest with yourself that that's the reason that you're doing it. Don't pretend that this is a strategic decision that's going to grow the business. And understand that if you are going to do it, it's going to probably cost you money, not make you money. And it's going to lose you focus from the core business that you're going to do. But if you want to do it because it's a life experience and it's a bit of a laugh, great. Just be honest,
Yeah.
And make sure that it's costed. Make sure that it's fully paid for. But don't do it to the detriment of what you're doing. It's not an antidote for a failing UK operation.
Yeah, because it's going to cost you thousands. Yeah.
And what seems, that initial franchise fee is always very quickly forgotten.
Yeah, spent in seconds.
Because, very quickly you're like, okay, didn't realise that this doesn't work over there, and that doesn't work because the legal system's different, and the customer's different, and the buying process is different, and you end up changing everything. And the first year is a wash because the franchisee's not making money because nothing works in the way that you think it's going to work. So you've got to be committed to it.
Did anyone insignificant hold your hand for anything, Andy? Is there any particular people you think you've learned some lessons from, or do you kind of just make your own? Can you remember any?
Probably a bunch of people along the way. I would say peers probably more than, I don't know if I could I don't know whether I'm doing someone a massive disservice here. Immediately,
it's hard when I put you on the spot.
Yeah, immediately I'm not thinking of like that was it, that was my mentor. This is what it was. I think I've just always
there'd be a bundle of people along the way.
100%.
Yeah, there'd be a bundle of people. It's always difficult when I put you on the spot like that, but it's interesting, isn't it? Because do you feel like you need amazing people around you, don't you, as well, to do these things? Oh yeah, that's the
absolutely.
I can tell you're a natural leader. Do you think? You think growing teams is the biggest part of it? Or what would you say the fundamental parts are doing? What do you...
I think it was getting buy-in from everybody and a bit of belief, and then momentum was really, really important. And as you say, having really good people around you, and knowing what your skills are and where your weaknesses are.
Yeah.
And it was, I'm a vision guy.
How do you get people to believe in your vision, though, Andy?
You just got to bring them along on the journey with you, and I think that's it. It's getting them proof, being involved in it and actually sort of, leading from the front. And for me, it was, those early days at Stagecoach, going out to the franchisees, I was a little bit of, I'm going to get shot here. You're putting me out here to get clobbered for the missteps of the past. And I'm like, all right, it's my job. I'm being paid a decent salary. I'm going to go and do it. I'll take it on the chin.
Yeah.
I'm going to go, 100% fair point. Fair point. Can we move on?
Yeah.
And then next time they bring it up, I'm like, I know, I've already admitted that. Fair point. And I've told you we're going to do something about it. So how about we let it go and we move on? And then next time I come back and I've delivered on the thing that I said that I'm going to deliver on, and they still complain about the previous thing. And I can go, I told you I was going to deliver on it. We've delivered on it. It's not an issue anymore. It wasn't mine, but I understand there's a legacy. At some point, you've got to let this go. And then it was about consistency. If I say I'm going to do it, and my team are going to do it, we're going to do it, and we're going to do it really bloody well. And then all of a sudden people are going like, yeah, okay, I might not like everything that they've done, I might not like every decision that they make, but when they say they're going to do something, they're going to do it, and we can always have an honest and open discussion about it. So I think it was that. It was, do stuff with integrity, and don't treat people poorly, and if you make a mistake, own it. So, honesty and integrity. I've always said that to people, like, I'll be massively honest with you. It's everything. Absolutely everything.
Everything in it, yeah. It's reputation in it, mate. It's just...
I was saying that to someone the other day. They were asking, can I help introduce them to people? And I was like, I almost see it as like a stack of chips that you get, right? Like at poker. And it's like everything that you've done over the years, all of the connections that you made, the experiences that you've got, that's your integrity. That's your business savvy in the nous and stuff. You get to choose when you get to cash that in, because you're going to need it at various points in your life, depending on what you need from that point in your life. And for me, I'm like, I'll cash that in at certain points if I think it's worth it, if it's something I can put my name behind, but only if that matches my integrity and my values and stuff, because I'm not wasting my chips on something else if it's a gamble that I don't think is worthwhile.
Yeah. Hey, I feel exactly the same about them sort of things. I would only get behind something if it's their moral compass, values, integrity. 100%. How's it feel, mate? It can still be a mega risk.
Yep.
But it's a calculated
one. Absolutely, yeah.
It's a calculated one that I felt inside, and I might go, this person as well, staff members as well, is risky.
Yeah.
But it fits right with me, so I'm willing to put my name to it.
And I don't know about you, but I've always very much been a trust your gut. I talk to franchisors a lot about that spidey sense at the back of their neck.
Spidey sense.
And when you get that tingling and you're like, oh, this one's a wrong un. Don't know why, but they're a wrong un.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all done it. You recruit a franchisee or you bring a staff member on and you're like, I knew it. I knew it the second that we met them that this wasn't right, and we made the mistake of thinking we needed the franchise fee. There was a budget to be met or whatever, and we went with it anyway. And almost always you end up regretting it. So if you got that moral compass and you know it and you feel it inside, it's like trust it because it's telling you something.
But sometimes it also works the other way as well. When you think I'm going to go with this, I think it's going to work, and it works.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or it doesn't sometimes as well. But then you learn a lesson as well at the same time.
Yeah, very true.
Mate, you've had a sick career, haven't you?
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, mate, you've had a top career, haven't you? So you got in the UK.
Yeah.
Did Stagecoach? Did you have any? When did the kids come into play? When did all that kind of happen? What I'm trying to get to is what I always bring to Andy is the whole being a dad, travelling, business kind of picture. How did that all fit in? Where did that come in?
Tough, if I'm honest. So 2 kids, 2 boys, 7 and 9.
Yeah.
And so first kid was, would it have been? It was around about the time I started Stagecoach.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was. Stagecoach is a brilliant business.
Yeah.
It does so much right, but it is equity owned, and those guys, they want their pound of flesh, and they need returns on it, and the returns that they wanted were really significant. And it was, as a leadership team, anybody that's been there will tell you, when you work for the owners that are there, it is demanding, and their expectations that are met.
Can I ask how you cope with that sort of stress? Is it
honestly, I probably didn't cope with it as well as I thought I did.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was one of those guys, if you'd say to me, are you stressed? I'd be like, no, mate, I'm good. No, I wasn't. And it comes out in other ways. Yeah, exactly that. And, and it was, I guess the downside and looking, being self-aware here of self-confidence and belief that you're good at stuff is, there comes that certain amount of things where I'm like, you can't do everything yourself. You can't be elite at everything and put the best of yourself to everything at all times. And that's what instinctively I was trying to do. I was like, I've got targets to meet, got new markets to open up. This is exciting and stuff. Got to be at this event. I've got to get on this plane. I've got to do that. Traveling all the time stuff, with 2 very young kids.
There must be some bases. How did you cope, mate? There must be some things that you put in place.
Honestly, I didn't. And I think that's the honest truth. And, I did struggle a little bit mentally after the second kid. Not massively so. I'm not going to make a big song and dance about it. But I did wrestle with I'm not enjoying life at the moment here because I am absolutely burnt out. Yeah. I'm like, because I take it on myself, like my home life is everything to me. I would trade in everything that I'm doing in a heartbeat. If my wife said to me, we need to go to Canada tomorrow, it's done. I'll jack everything in. Yeah. Done. If I have to do something for the kids or quit it all like that, it's not even a decision for me. Yeah. But at the time, it was, I'm trying to do all of these things and I'm trying to be the best that I can. So I'm trying to be all in and everything. I want to be a brilliant dad because that's the type of personality I am. I've got to be brilliant at everything.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm like, I'm struggling because I haven't got the time and I want to be a brilliant dad. So I want to be supportive of my wife. And I'm like, I want to get up and do the feeds and I want to do this and I want to do all of that stuff. And then I'm going to get up in the morning and get in the car, drive an hour and a quarter or whatever to the office and be brilliant there and then get back in time to see the kids before bedtime and try and be a good husband as well. Yeah. Be good value for her and someone that she wants to spend time with.
Couch.
Yeah. But also be good to myself. Yeah. And I think that's where it started to break I'm just not being kind on myself. It's like, I'm just struggling. I can't do all of this. Yeah. So even at that time, he said, were you stressed? No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm fine. But I wasn't sleeping well. Part of that's kids, part of it's stress or whatever. And then that sort of, segued nicely into COVID with all of the additional stress that came from that we all experienced. And that, that was another fundamental shift, I guess, in career in terms of what happened with next steps and stuff. So.
Yeah, so you left, did you leave Stagecoach at that point, did you?
Yeah, so I was there for probably the first 12 months of COVID. We had a mega deal for the US, ready to sign on like 1st of March, I think it was. We had the PR releases, everything ready. And then I remember reading in the news, and it's like, there's this thing going on in China. So they're like, we're just going to pause stuff for a while. And it was a huge deal, massive. And I'm like, okay, cool. Right, we'll revisit it in 2 weeks or whatever. And of course, it never got revisited because of that. And so yeah, I was there for about sort of 12 months. But at that point, you know, we're sort of 12 months in, and like every business, Stagecoach had to make decisions. And honestly, I was made redundant. And that for me was what a blow for my ego.
Yeah, but
Like, I've got a fairly sizable ego.
Yeah.
And, you know, to sort of go from, I'm fucking good at everything that I do, and I make a point of being good at it, to like, Jesus Christ, they've let me go. So I was gutted, like mentally gutted, because I'm like, Christ, they don't see that value. And of course it wasn't, they didn't see the value. It was simply that, who needs a global director when can't go anywhere? And like, no one's selling anything.
How did your missus cope with that? Is she good for you for that sort of stuff?
She's
What's she do for a job?
at the moment she works for a brand called Perkia. They do like snack food. She used to work at Gray's, who did the snack boxes in the post.
Yeah.
So she did all the logistics for them. Now she works for Perkia, does the same sort of thing. So she's very much logistics, operations, processes. She's good at all that stuff. Very pragmatic. So yeah, Stagecoach did. I look back now and I'm like, Stagecoach did what they needed to do, and it was absolutely the right call as a business.
Yeah.
Business needed to do what the business needed to do. At the time, I was fucking terrified because we had 2 kids at a very young age, not even at school yet. We had one income, which was mine, and the world was ending as far as I was aware. You know, everything was locked down.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it was a big salary that needed replacing. And I was like, Jesus Christ, who's going to hire me? It's not like, no one's going to pay me that amount of money because for us to even... So, you know, Janie goes into ultimate pragmatic response of, right, we've got to sell the house. Like, that was day one after we just found out. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, let my feet hit the ground and my head stop spinning. Like, you know, I don't think we need to quite do that yet. Yeah. But hers was very much of the, you know, what do we need to do to protect the family and sort of get things right?
Yeah, and put some money in the bank.
Yeah, which we didn't do. You know, it all turned out all right in the end. But yeah, it was quite scary at the time.
But what did you do?
So this is, I guess, bringing this back to franchising. This is one of the brilliant things about franchising is the community, you know, and here I guess is my mega stack of chips, right, that I've built up over the years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm all in.
I want favours.
Now's the time.
Yeah.
So I literally, I remember writing a post on LinkedIn of, you know, didn't see this coming. You know, we were doing brilliant double-digit growth every year previously, but like, didn't see this coming. I'm looking for opportunities. If anybody's out there to help me. Obviously had a bit of redundancy money, and I got 14 companies reached out.
Oh, fucking hell.
Immediately going...
If that doesn't tell you character, ethics, morals, the way you can control yourself, doesn't tell you everything in life.
So it was... And lots of people, you know, did what I knew they would do, which was, really sorry to hear that. If there's anything we can do, you know, we're here for you. We'd love to have your skills in some capacity, but the timing's not great. So I got a lot of that. And then I got a few others that did offer me jobs. And it was enough. It was that reassurance, that safety blanket of just going,
I can get a job. I can put a
there's
salary.
something out here. You know, I'll find something. You know, I might have to take something that's not quite what I want, but I can do something. But then I had a couple of businesses that were like, can't commit to anything, but can you help us with a few things short term? And I was like, okay, yeah, why not? So I started doing a few days here, a few days there, a few days here, a few days there. And I'm like, okay, this is actually quite good fun. And then, you know, from that sort of crystallized into what already was an idea in my head anyway of what I wanted to do. You know, I wanted to run my own business, and I wanted to help franchisors with all the things that I'd learned from some really good ones over the years.
Yeah, you've done
it. And sort of build up that as a business. So it was just, you know, it was a bit push-pull on that, but it was, sort of that almighty shove to sort of force me into...
Yeah, you needed the shove, didn't you?
Yeah.
Mate, he's so fucking grateful for COVID because in that respect, because what you've learned and the skills you've got was almost selfish to go and work for another company. To a certain degree, like if you went to work for another company and you were just working for them solely, the franchise industry is losing out quite a bit, aren't they? There really. Where now,
well, that's nice of you to say.
Well, it is, so isn't it? Now, think about all the brands you can help now. Yeah. 6 months, 12 months work with one brand will turn a family's life in.
And that was the thing that I found like really rewarding, was exactly that of like, you know, it is, I know that I can make a difference, and I know that they can't recruit me. I know they can't pay me what I need.
But
But in whatever capacity they can, I know that I can quickly add value to them.
5 grand, 10 grand, 12 grand, 20 grand, whatever it is over 12 a month for time, you can turn a small family business into a UK wide business.
Yeah, whatever it is. So so that's been great, and I get a little bit prickly, I guess, around people who say like, these things happen for a reason and stuff, and I'm like, don't diminish what I did. I'm like, it was really bloody tough. And the only reason I was able to turn it into a success was I put myself out there and I slogged my guts out. And that was at the time 14, 15 years of reputation and hard work. So no, it wasn't everything that happened for a reason. But it was awful. But now, I wouldn't go back. And
it definitely did happen for a reason. It definitely did happen for a reason. But at the same time, like I said to you, it would have been selfish to carry on working for another big company with the skill set you've got and the demeanour you are, type person. I think you're onto amazing. I love what you've just done with VMG as well. I think it's amazing the piece of work you've done with that. Did you do it all on your own now? How's that worked with the expo?
Yeah. So that was this is the children's franchise pavilion, right? Yeah. So it was it was all on my own. So effectively what we did was to try and take a sector. So the kids sector is now the biggest franchise sector in the UK in terms of volume of franchisors, but it's so underrepresented because a lot of them are really small and they don't punch above, so they don't punch above their weight. So
they haven't got the money to do that.
They haven't got the money, nor the wherewithal from a marketing point of view to know how to capitalise on it. So it literally was, is there a way that we can be stronger as a collective by working together? So it literally was that, is there a way that we can find a way to make it more financially manageable for these brands and to raise the profile of it as a group, to say, this isn't something that, is just a part-time operation for someone. There's a lot of really strong brands out there doing brilliant stuff and we can work supremely well if we work together. It was fun.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens in October, won't it? It'd be nice, won't it?
Yeah.
So Kindling is the name of it, isn't it?
Yeah, Kindling.
Yeah, and basically just working with different brands and doing all that covering at the minute.
Yep.
Amazing, mate. I'm going to close the podcast. I think I've got everything I wanted out of it. I was just really selfish for that one. I just wanted to know, because I've met you so many times and I always respect you, and we've only had a handful of conversations, but I just knew. I said to you it'd be a good fucking podcast, this, didn't I?